We've been working with whistleblowers, and these whistleblowers are Minnesota state employees, almost all of whom are registered Democrats that have been sounding the alarm for years. So we're going to inform the American people today what's going on, and also talk about what the Trump administration is doing as we speak on the ground to try to hold people accountable.
Well, you just heard the soundbite of Tim Walz. You hear what he's saying. Hey, I'm not going anywhere. And by the way, when is the president going to resign? What exactly do you think he's talking about?
Well, he has to be talking about January 6th, because that's all they want to talk about today. In fact, I think their witness, the minority always gets a witness. We have state legislators. This is a hearing today in oversight about fraud, about billions of dollars of fraud in one particular state. And the Democrats will want to, their members aren't going to talk about fraud because they don't care about wage fraud abuse. They care about January 6th.
Oh, I love that. You know, Jamie Comer is not exactly the funniest guy in Congress, but every once in a while he lets loose a zinger, and that one, it was unintentional even, but I love it because he's absolutely right. In fact, that's all they ever want to talk about is January 6th. I swear, it's like it's unavoidable. You know, you talk about anything, we got to talk about January 6th, of course. Well, why are we talking? Or now there's a new, they threw a zinger, you know, sometimes now with Epstein. They got the second talking point. They have exactly 2 talking points. Of course, and that is January 6th and Epstein, even though Epstein really, you know, there's no proof of anything related to Trump or other than him not wanting anything to do with Epstein. Yeah, it's just and now, you know, you hear these bold predictions. I laughed my ass off when I heard all these Democrats on BS Now and fake news CNN talking about how, well, we've already taken care of Kristi Noem and we're now taking care of Pam Bondi. I think next up is Pete Hegseth. Oh, wow. You do you? Well, first of all, you could make a strong argument in both cases before that it was actually had nothing to do with you and had to do with President Trump deciding that they were not doing as good a job as he required. I mean, they kind of both did something that kind of ruffled his feathers, to say the least. And in each of those cases, it was right after that happened that they basically were sort of given the papers. Although he's so incredibly loyal, he doesn't seem to fire members of his cabinet. He just reassigns them to a different department. Now, it's obviously, you know, a demotion into a much lower and much less high profile sort of position, obviously, but he can't just, you know, he can't just leave them hanging when they served his administration. And especially when both of them, they were, regardless, I think, you know, in each circumstance there was different reasons, but you know, regardless, they both were just, this was just not the right job for the right people, or maybe the right time, whatever the circumstances. Just didn't work out, but they were still trying to be loyal. They weren't trying to sabotage. They weren't, you know, they weren't pulling a, what's that asshole that recently left and started appearing everywhere for freaking, I forget his name now. Is that jerk with the weird squished looking face? But I can't remember his name now. But if Run to Tucker talk about how Israel is convincing Trump to do this, and anyway, they didn't do that, you know, and they didn't pull the Marjorie Taylor Greene, or excuse me, Marjorie Trader Brown card of you know, showing up everywhere and like, once again, ragging on MAGA and the president doesn't understand. It's just like, you know, they're described, you know, I can't imagine it would be perfectly a cordial meeting, but I can imagine that it was civil, and they I would, above all else, I would imagine at the end of the day, they do respect President Trump's judgment, and if they are concluded as to not be the ones best suited for the job, according to President Trump, and that's what they should do. But you notice, I think, more than anything, what did we have in the Biden administration during his term with the Department of Homeland Security? Well, we had Alejandro Mayorkas, and that was it. In the Attorney General, we had Merrick Garland, and that was it. Once again, not one change, not one shift. Nobody was removed and replaced. Nobody, nobody resigned. Nobody was fired. Nobody had any kind of, everybody was doing apparently a fantastic job, even though nobody was doing a fantastic job. And as a matter of fact, in particular, of course, Alejandro Mayorkas, my personal candidate for potentially one of the worst human beings alive, actually, lied before Congress time and time again, and even when there was an impeachment, that passed the House and moved on to the Senate, it was in Democrat control. And as I've said before, what did they do? Well, instead of going through the evidence of the impeachment and going through the discussion and having the debate and then ruling on it, which they would have won anyway because they had the majority, instead Chuck Schumer decided, no, we're going to have a vote to, first it was to table, meaning to put it on hold until we feel like dealing with it. Then it was, now we're going to vote to dismiss, meaning now we don't even want to look at it. We're not even going to bother with it, ever. And that passed the Democratic Senate, because the Democratic Senate didn't care if Alejandro Mayorkas was a tyrant and ruling the border like, dare I say, like a king? No kings. Fuck off. Anyway, hello everyone. How are you doing tonight? Sorry for mishmash schedule, but it's hard to keep up at this point, man. It's really hard to keep up. There's so many things going on, and oh, whoops, man. Oh, sorry about that. My background noise coming in from Rumble. Sorry about that. Anyway, so yeah, been obviously keeping up with one of the most important events, because I could tell you right now, he's no longer in the House, but Adam Schiff was probably the biggest scourge on the House of Representatives we've ever seen in probably our lifetimes, maybe in the lifetimes of every living person on the planet. But someone that was close, nipping at his heels, was Eric Swalwell for a very long time. And for a very long time, I've thought, man, that guy is such a scumbag. I swear, that guy, there's something about him that is just so incredibly freaking arrogant all the time. He has this sort of way of speaking to give this faux sense of of authority and of morality, and some sort of fake sense of being having integrity and deep values for things. And when you listen to him actually speak, it's just, well, this is how great I am. Listen, I've been a federal prosecutor for 7 years. I can't tell you how many fucking times I've heard that stupid statement. I was a federal prosecutor for 7 years. Yeah, we know, dipshit. What did you do? Nothing. You probably released more people than you did anything to prosecute, unless of course they were white and responsible for something like violence against a minority or a woman, no matter what the circumstance. If it was self-defense, if it was in defense of someone else, it doesn't matter. We know where Eric's loyalty lies, don't we? But anyway, the funny part is that he's been dodging bullets left and right for the years. Everyone knows the notorious story of Fang Fang, the Chinese spy, which we'll be going over today, of course, in more detail. But you would have thought that having a relationship, literally sleeping with the enemy, sleeping with a CCP spy from China sent to America to honey trap an American politician. Victor Davis Hanson talked about this, and it was the most hilarious thing I ever heard, because he said that she came onto the campus of Harvard for, he works in the Hoover Institute, so he works on the Harvard campus. And he said that she came into his department or his office at one point, and she recognized him, and she started talking to him, and he was like, it was the most obvious case of honey trap I've ever seen in my life. Like, it was so stereotypical, obvious, like what she was trying to do to, hook up with someone in a position of authority or power in the United States to gain intel to bring back to China. It was just so obvious in everything, in the way she dressed, the way she talked, the way she played, like, kind of naive and kind of like cutesy, like, the way she dressed, everything about her was just like so cliched and down to the wire. And so obviously Victor saw it, but Swalwell, in his infinite wisdom, those 7 years as a federal prosecutor, apparently they didn't help out too much in that situation. But yeah, it's there's that one, which you would have thought that something like that. And the funny thing is which we'll get to in a little bit, Kevin McCarthy, when he was he took the gavel as the Speaker of the House for that brief period of time, and he focused on 3 particular members specifically, and they were all members of the Intelligence Committee of the House of Representatives, which they get access to classified hearings and briefings that no other committee in Congress actually, at least in the House, gets access to. So you want someone that's got pretty good rapport of being able to be responsible with classified information, not have leaks to the press all the time, not have not have people or strategies or informants or anything like that leaked that will go out to, worst case, an international foreign enemy that would be that would know something was wrong and be ready to jump on it. But what do we have? Well, we had Adam Schiff, we had Eric Swalwell, and then the third wonderful candidate in this trio of winners of the Democrat Party, none other than Ilhan Omar, of course, because, and of course, you would want a Somali immigrant who still talks about how her allegiance is with Somalia, as opposed to America, and she's on the Intelligence Committee. I mean, what could go wrong, right? But no, like every single one of them. You got Adam Schiff, who's taking all this information, believing every single thing he hears just so he can use it against Trump. You got Swalwell with the Chinese spy. And then you got Ilhan Omar, who married her brother to become an American citizen, or to make him I don't know. Either way, she's marrying her brother, and then and now they have a vineyard that in California that I've been unaware of and doesn't exist as far as I know, but it's there, and they make wine, according to her. They make wine. They definitely make wine. And don't you say otherwise, or we'll behead you. No, just kidding. Anyway, not really. But so one of the first things that was done in that Congress was they were all taken off of Intel. And that was the infamous clip. I may have to play it, as a matter of fact, of Rashida Tlaib spazzing out in front of the whole freaking House of Representatives, shouting at the top of her lungs how, "You belong on that committee!" It's just, oh my God, like, just, shoot me, or just shut the fuck up. I don't care. Anyway, but that's, this is just the tip of the iceberg of this one. Because, man, oh man, hypocrisy, thy name is Swalwell. My gosh, it's incredible. With all the people he has slighted over the years, and he has been a thorn in the side of, and his performative advertisements, his absolutely ridiculous equivocations, all the things he's tried to use as propagandist talking points to go after Donald Trump over and over again. And now it turns out, oh, so all that stuff about grabbing by the pussy, all that stuff about sexual harassment, all that stuff about, as a federal prosecutor, I went after women who weren't being believed in cases of sexual assault. Like, and now we find out all this other shit. It's like, wow. And the funniest part is, apparently, this was like something that was more like the worst kept secret on Capitol Hill. Apparently, there was Kevin McCarthy, which we'll go over, but he mentions in his interview that if there were any young staffers that were female that were coming in, we knew. This is kind of a dig, and it's a little unfair, but I'm just rolling with it just to be honest. He says we knew not to let them be assigned to Eric Swalwell or Matt Gaetz. Which, once again, I don't know about what I've heard about Matt Gaetz. I've heard some pretty sordid stuff. I don't know how honest it is. As far as I believe to some extent that there was something like that happened, and I do think that, like, of course, Matt Gaetz is like a lightning rod. There's trouble that follows him pretty much anywhere he goes, and it's hard to even tell, like, honestly, at this point, like, what side he's on. I hate to even say, because I thought he was always so freaking grounded and very devoted to President Trump. But once again, we've seen Tucker Carlson now, who I thought, but then again, it's like, what do all these people really have in interest? What's their real interest? Well, their real interest is breaking some kind of massive news that is really going to be able to capture the audience's attention and keep them in retention. And Tucker's been successful at that, although I've been looking at the numbers for the usual suspects, who I guess I'm going to refer to them as that now, because anytime there's something on the right or the left, and it's coming from the podcast space, and it's going to be knocking President Trump over Iran, and it's bipartisan, you're almost always going to see those four original suspects in there. That you got Tucker, Candace, Megyn Kelly, and Alex Jones. So it's just it's funny seeing how that all plays out. But I'll have a clip to play in a little bit. But I also wanted to bring this up because there's one more segment I'm going to get to for sure. I'm going to try to get to another one, although I can't promise on this one. I've been talking about it too long, because that immigration one. But what I am going to get to today is, I don't know what it is about this guy, but he just keeps popping up. And maybe just for me, I don't know. Maybe you guys don't get it. I get it all the time for some reason. If there's a debate that is being featured that I'm being recommended to, it's always with fucking Brian Shapiro. And I swear, the guy is, first off, he's an absolute rage pick. Like, he's a total fucking, he reminds me of Dark Side Phil, but in politics. Like he gets so angry all the time. Like, on the flip of a switch, suddenly he's just fucking spurging out furious. It's insane. But what I think is really interesting is he's really stepped in a lot of different camps now, to kind of try to take everybody on. He's got this ridiculous self-image. He thinks he's this super smart, super formidable debater that's got, like, all this clout, and it's like, dude, you're a joke. You don't even know what you're talking about. The only reason you even disguise it is because you cut people off and strawman their arguments constantly. I've never heard so much from one debater who is using nonstop, every single time, reductio ad absurdum attempts to go after their argument as ridiculous. And it's in case you don't know, reductio ad absurdum. It's obviously old Latin phrase. I don't even. It's appeal to extremes. Essentially, what you do is you listen to someone's argument and you take it to the most extreme point that you can think of as the ending point to what that person would be arguing about. So, like for example, Trump saying there are good people on both sides. We'll just cut out the part about him saying the I'm not talking about the white white nationalist and what was it? White supremacist and no, yeah, I can't remember. I think it was that's right. It was the neo Nazis and then white nationalists because they should be condemned totally. That was what I think the quote. But anyway, you take that. There's good people on both sides, and then you extrapolate that into oh he thinks there's good people on both sides, so he thinks that everyone was on the side of the statues must have been what none of them were Klansmen, none of them were neo-Nazis, none of them were racist. Is that what you like? No, that's not what he said. It would normally go without saying when you make a statement like there's good people on both sides that would also entail there are also bad people on both sides. Naturally, I mean that's kind of goes without saying, obviously. But once again, that wasn't how they wanted to paint it, because that's the other part is, and this is one of the big weaknesses of the left that people really need to kind of gravitate onto, because if they did do this, I've talked about this for a while, and this is why you know, I hate to do this, but I'll just very briefly go into this because I'm sorry. I know I swear like a sailor. I've got a very bad potty mouth. Um, I'm not family friendly in a lot of stuff I talk about. I I would maybe try to do a show that was different than this one, that maybe was a little bit more PG, I guess so you would call it. Um, eventually I might take that route because yeah, just to have an appeal to more people. But I think to be honest, th- I'm always going to want to do this show because honestly, I just don't think anybody's doing it, and like people are doing it, but they're not doing it in a way that's like, you know, fuck the bad language. Our fucking country is getting destroyed by these lunatics, and we're watching it happen, and I'm tired of it. And so I just get to that point where it was like when Trump dropped the f bomb, and everybody was more upset about that than anything else that was said in the freaking. Actually, they got more upset about that than they did about Iran doing anything, or anytime that there's been chance for from the river to the sea, or anytime there's been chance to glory to the martyrs, or any chance, real horrendous shit, as opposed to open the fucking straight, like I don't know, open the fucking strait compared to uh, from the river to the sea, or glory to the martyrs, aka the the disgusting mass rapist, murdering sociopathic ideological lunatics in Hamas. Um, Somehow, um, open the fucking strait is more offensive than that. So that's why I just like. I know that I know it's frowned on, and I know it's not going to be something that's family friendly. But I've got to do me, and I've got to do something that I think some people on the right who are a little more relaxed with their way of speaking, and don't uh, recognize that there's a time and place for things like this, and it's in places like this. You wouldn't talk like this when you're meeting with your relatives or in church or in, a setting where you need to be formal. This is a show that I'm live streaming on Rumble and YouTube, and I know it's just a matter of time before YouTube finds this show and does not like a lot of what they're hearing. I don't care. I don't care when that day comes. Okay, I'll just stream only on Rumble, and I'll put some clips up on YouTube as long as I can. But I'll say this: um, if there were more people that were just hitting you with that sledgehammer of like these people are fucking crazy. We need to talk about this and figure out what the hell we're gonna do because we're letting our country go destroyed, and meanwhile we're fighting over whether or not we should be saying fucking people because of the F bomb in it. Like, I get it, but what are we doing? Are we serious about the severity of the problem or not? Like, we have to agree on that much at least. Anyway, so I'm sorry, I went way off the tangent on here, but I just it's something I haven't addressed yet, and I really felt like I really should because honestly, I know I get it, and I know it's going to be a turnoff for some people. I'm willing to accept that, and I'm willing to accept people if it's not for you, it's not for you. That's fine, um, but there's a reason. It's not. I'm not just coming on here with no restraint and naively just saying whatever I want to say without any knowledge of that aspect of things. I'm doing this for a purpose, and goes back to what Mr. Medicare said a long time ago about when the skeptics were really just fart huffing all the time. He said that like I played the clip. I'll talk about it again sometime. Basically, it equates to they cared more about their image than getting their point across. The Democrats care about both, so it's hard to balance. But if we were, we meaning anybody in opposition to them, was totally focused on just getting that message out and not how pretty or shiny the presentation of it is, but just getting that message out to the people, I think it would be way more effective than trying to gloss it up with a bunch of highly funded, highly scripted, and very inauthentic sort of pitches that appeal to be honest, generations that aren't really the major voting blocks anymore. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents, and I've never spoken about it. So anyway, on with the main subject. So let's get into some Swalwell clips. Where do we begin? So in case you haven't heard I'm sure you've heard by this point, but um, there are a number of female staffers who have come out who have staffed for Eric Swalwell and have all come out with some sort of allegation, but a few have come out with some pretty credible allegations of sexual assault. One specifically came out on CNN. I guess I'll start there with the actual clip of the girl who is concealed with her identity, but you hear the full account of basically what she says happened to her. Now, she picks up on this story by saying that this is after things cooled down and I felt more comfortable again. So obviously, this is after something had already happened, and she had to kind of go through the process of kind of like, okay, all right, I'm feeling comfortable here again. I think it'll be fine. And so this is in I think 2019, she says or something. But she so before 2019 there was already this stuff happening, which by the way is right around the time he was saying Russia hacked our democracy. And to be honest, it's really pathetic because whew, once again, when it comes to the Russia hoax, um, it's so unbelievable. I remember at the time the kind of takeaway that the Democrats were trying to push, and once again, like anybody that knows anything about United States common law or uh, the basically Western common law, um, they know that what was he? Damn, I forgot. Um, I forgot what I was just saying. Damn it. Um, Investigation. Jeez, man. Okay. I got too many things going on in my head. Maybe I should just play the clip and we'll get to that. Hold on. Maybe I'll remember when this is coming up. But anyway, I'll try and kind of pick up about that in a little bit. And by the way, I also let me know if I sound kind of awkward. I did some readjustments in the audio for the uh, the show's mic, so I honestly just wanted to because I was listening to another show and I realized that the lows were a little too high in volume, so I turned those down a smidgen. I turned up some of the more middle areas up some more, and then so just basically I adjusted the audio settings, and if I sound way off, let me know because this is the first stream since I changed it. But um, anyway, let's see. There's hmm, and sorry, they're all mixed up because some of these came out a long time ago. Some of them are brand new. And I can't remember which one's which. So, hmm. Which, by the way, we're also going to be talking about not just Eric Swalwell, but the whole House of Representatives, the Senate, basically the Congress, and everything that goes on in that building, and basically the people that are supposed to be your representatives, your direct representatives in Washington D.C., and what they are up to on any given day. Because I really want to show a couple clips, and I think these will be very illuminating to people who aren't familiar with the kinds of bullshit they like to pull when they know that there's not a big audience, um, and when they know that there's not a big focus on what they're doing, so they can just do really shitty stuff and then run away, and they don't ever have to even be questioned about it. There's a great example of that. Where the hell did this thing go? Oh, I think it is it this one. Hold on just a second. Let me make sure that this is. Okay. Yeah, here it is. Here it is. Okay, so I forgot because this has sort of this has the intro of some of the Chinese spy excursions with Fang Fang, but it goes into the interview. This was on CNN, like I said, interview with White House staffer for Eric Swalwell, and she's keeping her identity hidden, but you'll hear at the end of the video. This isn't just some baseless accusations. There's actually some solid evidence to back up the claims that was pulled directly from uh, reports, documents, statements from not just her, but friends, family, and people she confided in immediately afterwards. So this is a lot more like what you would see in a legitimate case of some kind of sexual assault, where it's not just someone who you hear cases where people are like they're supposedly sexually assaulted. They didn't see someone to see if they're pregnant. They didn't talk to anyone around them about being, feeling like they were violated. There's no signs of any kind of emotional or mental trauma or physical trauma, nothing like that. And then there's cases like this where there's all of those things, and you can tell, wow, yeah, this is a serious violation of trust from someone who is supposed to be there representing the interests of California. Maybe that was what he was doing by doing that. I don't know. It's a sick place down here, man. But anyway, so yeah, this is on. Oh yeah, right. To save my camera from overheating again, I tried to take certain steps, including turning it off until now, and actually tried to get a fan set up that it seemed like it would work, but unfortunately I couldn't position it because my desk is too cluttered, so I'm going to work on that. But anyway, here is the video in question, and we'll get to that right now. So.
But his dealings with that Chinese operative named Fang Fang, a.k.a. Christine Fang, spoke volumes. The communist agent not only fundraised for Eric Swalwell's campaign, but she got so close to him that she managed to place an intern inside his office.
Okay, so this is freaking crazy right here. This part just is wild because imagine you're invaded by a spy from China who's trying to get as much information about political politicians in the United States, finding out weaknesses and points of pressure that you can put on them, or points where you can dangle, some kind of prize in front of them, then they'll jump every time. And this guy's just fucking falling for everything. Like he's got her in his bed, he's got her on his campaign, he's got her in his freaking congressional office, and then she brings in someone to be a staffer for her. I'm not sure if this is one of the people that she was talking about, but I'm positive that not everyone in his office is Chinese by recommendation. However, even if that's the case, I don't think this is the best way to go about it. To be honest, I think there's probably some other steps you should use in that case. But anyway, no.
I can see flashes of that evening, of him on top of me pushing him off, him grabbing me. It was a lot more aggressive. It was aggressive. I was pushing him off of me, saying no.
And what did he do?
He didn't stop.
He didn't stop.
Let's take a look at the Kalshi prediction markets. Chance that Swalwell wins the California governorship. You go back to the beginning of the month. Look at this. It's about 3 and 5. He was the clear favorite at this point to be the next California governor. But by Friday, his chances are already adios amigos, goodbye, basically.
Now, this is what's really interesting because I didn't even mention the governor's race up into this point because now we've got a crazy situation going on in California here because I'm looking at Chad Bianco and Steve Hilton, who I've been behind Steve Hilton for a long time. I've if you ever watched his show on Fox that he had for a while, it was not always the most exciting, but you could tell the guy was really passionate about California. He really loved the state. He really saw the potential in the state, and he was so freaking disappointed that it had just been handed off to be controlled by absolute fucking loons who always just ran it into the dirt. Every single policy that ever came out was just another policy to fucking screw up the state. It was embarrassing going even as far back as even before Schwarzenegger. Honestly, Gray Davis was not the best candidate and not the best governor. Pete Wilson was a little sketchy, but man, and to be honest, maybe not as much so. They got more and more intense and crazy as time went on. But and by the way, there was a large flip. There's used to be a lot of well, we'll save that part for later. We'll talk about California a little bit later. Right now, we're trying to focus on this. Now, the craziest aspects of all this are not just that all this stuff's coming out, and he's dropping like a rock in the polls. But I'm sure you probably have heard this by now. California has a primary system called the jungle primary. I'm sure the Obamas will be furious when they hear about this, if they haven't yet, because they hated the parody that was on X. That was I personally would have been pissed if I was the guy that was represented as the weasel, or was it the hyena? I can't remember. It was one or the other though. I would have been more offended if I was that guy. But maybe that's just me. I don't know. But anyway, the interesting part that I think is that he was the only candidate. So it was at the time when he was in the race. Last ratings were, it went Steve Hilton, and then Eric Swalwell, and then Chad Bianco. So the top three, it was a Republican, a Democrat, and then another Republican. By yanking Swalwell out, it seems like it may put Chad Bianco in second, unless the next highest Democrat, which happens to be fucking Katie Porter, which, by the way, in case you don't know, not the best substitute. She's one of the most. You could just listen to her voice for like 5 seconds and know, oh yeah, this broad's nuts. Like you really can tell, like, just by listening to her for a few seconds. If you would, geez, sorry, man. I think it's all the citrus I've been drinking a lot of juices today. But if you just watch that video of Katie Porter with that staffer who's in her shot, stay out of my shot. That, like, oh my gosh, fucking insane. It's a lunatic. And so I don't think people are going to go flocking that direction either. I honestly am kind of thinking that if they're, because you've got Hassan Piker out here now talking about how I think it was Gavin Newsom that was mentioned as the Democrat. Yeah, he was posed a question: would you vote for Gavin Newsom over, J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio? It's like, I would just not vote. I would just not vote. And the other hosts, of course, were all just like, oh, what? How dare you? You can't. And his son's going off on his little freaking diatribe about how none of them are really representing us anyway. It's like, it's like, okay, maybe whatever it is you're talking about, they're not representing you, but A, I don't know what you're talking about, and B, even if I did, how would I be led to believe that your ideas are going to be anything, worthwhile? So, bring in Katie Porter, and this is from before even Swalwell took the lead. She comes out as this woman who's abused her ex-husband like a bunch of times, the worst of which, the infamous mashed potatoes story. She freaking was complaining about how he cooked mashed potatoes wrong, and when they got done, she took the hot mashed potatoes and took the bowl and dumped them on his head, and it burned the fuck out of his scalp, and it was like, oh man. And it's like, yeah, wow, that temperament's perfect for California. But so there's a real hope, it seems like, from a lot of people, not just straight conservatives, but a lot of moderates and a lot of independents that we see, at least in California. Because I can say, Larry Elder, I would have loved to see it, but you compare him to Steve Hilton or to Chad Bianco, he's a far more traditional conservative in terms of local issues and just policy for not relating to like traditional conservative economic views. Very small government, eliminate as many government programs as possible. That's the exact right approach to take with California, but it's going to be a big step for a lot of voters who are not going to be willing to accept that, because there's so many people in this state on some form of federal assistance of some kind. So the thing that's going to have to be weighed is that you have to look at it and say, are these people conservative in principle enough to be able to represent it to California enough to make some sweeping changes, and those changes lead to beneficial changes to the state that hold and that may incentivize some people to come back to the state or new entrepreneurs to come to the state, because the biggest problem in California, people have said this a million times, and it is that regulations for fucking everything. If you're not familiar with California regulation, I'll just give you one example. Smog checks. And it's not just smog checks, it's star testing now. There's all these stupid freaking, you can only get tested at this station, not this station, because this is a star station. What's a star? I don't know. They just do more in-depth testing. What? I don't know. They just do a bunch of other shit. Okay, well, I guess we'll do that then. Like, it makes no sense. It just is more money shoveled out the door, probably to somebody who gave Gavin Newsom a bunch of money. Meanwhile, you know, let's let the Pacific Palisades burn because you couldn't bother to keep the dry brush in the area from getting bone dry and being like not just a significant fire hazard, a significant inferno hazard, because you had no freaking interest in even. I saw this video of this promo he was doing on the news at one point where Gavin Newsom's in the woods. I don't know what woods. And he's with a group of people, I don't know who they are, and they're just cleaning up the woods, aka they're raking up some leaves and throwing them into a bin. And that's Gavin Newsom's contribution. He probably went home and took the rest of the day off. He's so tired after that. The dude loves the photo ops, which is why, you know, the infamous story about San Francisco. Once again, you know, Xi Jinping's coming. Clean up San Francisco right now. Get all the shit off the street. Get all the bums off the street. Everybody off the street that's a vagrant. All the needles. Get them out of here. Get everything out of here. Xi's coming. Okay, he's gone. All right. Have fun, everybody. See you later. He doesn't give a fuck about California. He doesn't give a fuck about the people of California. He cares about the voters so far as they'll vote for who he wants to win. He's an absolute snake. I mean, you can't say enough about how fucking sleazy the guy is. I would put him probably in the level of local government on par with Adam Schiff. Absolutely. A very different kind of Adam Schiff, you know, because I will say this, got a way better appearance than Adam Schiff. His presentation, like compared to Adam Schiff, you might as well be looking at, you know, a Angelica sort of being compared to that bald pencil neck, weird looking, goofy, smiling, half thin lipped weirdo that, I mean, he's just a fucking creepy looking dude. And that's the problem with Newsom, is that he lures you in with the freaking you know, the sort of the smile and the handshake, and he's on your side. When he was talking to Charlie Kirk before he really even, like, that was his first podcast, before the thing even really got anywhere to a point where anybody's watching. You know, in that interview, the very first thing he talks about is how his son's a fan of Charlie Kirk, and he wanted to take the day off of school. He didn't let him because he has to go to school. And then when Charlie Kirk gets shot, it's like, how's your son? And it's like, oh, he didn't really know him that well. He just he knew of him through his friends. I'm sorry. Wow, that's a hell of, and that's the worst part, is the way they just casually drop this shit. Like, yeah, well, that wasn't really, you know, motherfucker, you just lied like crazy. You said he was a huge fan. He wanted to take the day off of school. Now you're saying, oh, he didn't really know who he was. You know, when I was a kid, if someone in my family was a streamer or a content creator of some kind and was having somebody like, I don't know, who's a good example when I was a kid? Maybe not, maybe not at that stage, maybe a little bit earlier, like when I was into hmm, Maynard from Tool. Maynard, the lead singer from Tool. If somebody told me he was going to be over to talk and answer questions, like I would have been super excited. I know who Maynard is. Oh, I want to ask him about Pucifer. I want to ask him about. I don't think Pucifer was out yet. Perfect Circle was out. I want to ask him about Perfect Circle and Mirror Gnomes. I want to ask him about Lateralis. I would have been on and on and on. I was fucking huge into Tool. I'm still into Tool, not as much, but they never put out anything anymore. But I mean, I still look back on the videos and it's amazing the artwork that they have in the. I mean the surreal fucking way that they always shoot their music videos is just absolutely crazy. But in terms of the level of some interest that would have stuck with me. There's no way in hell you would have had that person who did the interview. I mean, I would have tortured him on the way to school. I would have freaking been asking every step of the way, can you please take me back? Please let me just stay for here. I'll make a deal. We'll do, I'd be doing everything possible to stay. And then if I was still forced to go to school, I might ditch school just to hang out outside the window, watch the interview. And then when it's over and they go outside and they go, hey, Corey, what are you doing here? Aren't you supposed to be at school? It's like, well, out of nowhere, luckily, they let us out of third period today, so I booked it here. Like I would have come up with anything possible to free, and that's what I mean. Like kids, teenagers that are into somebody, if they're into somebody, they're into somebody. They're gonna want to be there to see it for sure. So you can't tell me some kind of stupid bullshit like, well, he was into him, but he wasn't really a fan. It's like, if you're a teenager and you're a fan, you're either a fan or not. There's no middle ground here. You're a fan or you're not a fan. So you lied. Which, I mean, honestly, that's the most rational conclusion you can reach. There's no way in hell that I mean, honestly, I can see Gavin Newsom, the snake that he is, freaking being like, oh no, absolutely not. You can't follow Charlie. He would try to make sure his kids couldn't follow Charlie Kirk. You think he believes in free speech? Oh, come on. Come on now. Jeez Louise. Hold on just a second. What's going on here? Oh. Why is this thing... Oh, I see why. Okay, never mind. Well, that's actually good, though. Sorry, my web browser is... the text was too big and it barely displaying anything. Actually, it's still too big. Here, hold on. There, much better. Much better. Okay. All right, so anyway, but that's a good way to kind of lead into the next sort of clips, because we're gonna have to. I mean, we're gonna look into the serious stuff, but we're also gonna have to make fun of this guy because there are some very very low lights in this guy's time in the House of Representatives, and I mean it's embarrassing as fuck. And so, where should we? Where should we? Let's start here. So I was talking about Kevin McCarthy and what he had to say about the Three Musketeers from Intel that were definitely not meant to be on Intel. But this is actually a interview on Dave Rubin with Kevin McCarthy, and the whole thing goes into good detail about the whole situation. But this is good as a summary of what went into his decision and how the whole thing was decided, basically, and specifically with Swalwell, this is such an own, because once again, everybody knows this guy. I'll mention something that came up after I play this clip that was really surprising that I heard while I was watching the PBD podcast about the subject, involving Adam Sosnick, who has his own little take on this situation that comes from personal experience. But before that, let's hear Kevin McCarthy's statement on the situation with Swalwell while he was Speaker of the House, and short-lived speakership, of course, but things happen. And I don't necessarily think, I mean, if you ask me today, do you think Kevin McCarthy would be better than Mike Johnson? Maybe, but probably not better. I mean, you're probably looking at something in the realm of about the same. Overall, maybe you get some benefits here and some problems there, and they'd be swapping around pros and cons, but there wouldn't be any major difference overall in what you're getting, essentially, I think is probably the biggest takeaway. But in any case, in the short time he was Speaker, he did make some pretty good decisions like this one. This one was very good, because getting rid of guys like this should come with the job specifically. I also have a really interesting clip, and this is why, well, I'll get to that in just a second. Let's play this one first. And this is, most of these are really short, so I think this one's only about 2.5 or 3 minutes long. Yeah, just under 2 minutes. So okay. I think actually Victor Davis Hanson has another quote in this one too. So hang on just a second. Okay. All right. So here we go. This is with Dave Rubin and Kevin McCarthy and Swalwell on the House Intelligence Committee. So let's check this out.
Didn't Swalwell sleep with a Chinese spy or something? I mean,
yes. Why? Okay, that's a good question. I want to finish my 8 pillars. But let's talk about this. What we know publicly, a Chinese spy, and also remember, Senator Feinstein, we found out later, the driver of more than 10 years was a Chinese spy in Silicon Valley. They've been in pictures together. This woman, a Chinese spy, creates a relationship with Swalwell when he's in the city council. He runs for Congress. She helps. She puts interns in his office. Do you know how difficult it is to get on the Intel committee? When Swalwell was put on the Intel committee, they were in the minority, so they had fewer seats. He was a sophomore getting put on the Intel committee. He's kept on the Intel committee. This woman.
They were warning them that there was a spy, basically, right?
Yeah. I wonder how they knew she was a spy, right? She.
And there's only one reason why. Can you guess? Can you guess? Because he was one of the flag bearers for Russiagate, and that's really the main reason why they wanted some. I mean, I can't say this for certain, but I mean it. The only thing that makes sense, and it's so fucking obvious that it's the only possible explanation. They wanted people there who were absolutely hardline Russiagate promoters, and we're going to use the talking points on all the interviews they went on to just push this hardcore without any doubt in their mind. And you had guys like Schiff and guys like Swalwell who were doing interview after interview, which, once again, title of the episode, I think we'll find that there was evidence hiding in plain sight. Yeah, I think there is. I think there's evidence hiding in plain sight, all right. And it's you guys and your fucking insanely ridiculous freaking lax standards for anybody that can be in your cabinet or your what's it called on your staff as a congressman or as a senator, and you know, you don't really care as long as you're getting the message out that Donald Trump, evil man, he was put here by the Kremlin, and that's the important message. these people are so stupid, I swear. It's just like, and that was so imperative to get out. We had to get that out now. So we'll keep this going.
It wasn't just spy, and then you had a mayor and other parts. Think about how big your spy mechanism must be if you have enough money to have a spy that cares about you when you're in the city council.
Eric Swalwell, well, as I said, I wrote some critical things of China, and Fang Fang came to see me as a consular official out of the Bay Area. And I think she told me she was a political operative that monitored American politics. But when she walked in my office at the Hoover Institution, I kept the door open. I had one of my research people with me the whole time. And the way she changed accents and how she was dressed, you would have to be a stupid, narcissistic idiot to fall for that. Anybody who would fall for her, honeypot, it was just a joke. Anybody could see that.
And so that explains his stupid
Anything he says, he's a Beto O'Rourke of the House.
The Beto O'Rourke of the House. Oh, geez, that's one hell of a slight, man. Jesus. Yeah. So that was, I forgot the finer details, and that is classic. But like I said, so Victor Davis Hanson right there is talking about how obvious it was. But that's what I mean. These are people who don't give a shit. They don't give a shit about anything else except for making sure that they have all the leverage they can possibly get to get your vote. That's what they want. They don't care about getting any kind of agenda done. They want your vote, and they're trying to get it any way they can. That includes, they want your vote, they want the illegals' vote, they want the vote of the dead people, they want the vote of the children. They don't care who it is, they want their votes. It's obvious and blatantly in front of everyone's face by the idea that, and I guess this is a good point to play this, because, people have been bringing this point up. I want you guys to see this. This speaks volumes, because I have my, look, right now the government is really showing itself to be, well, let's just put it like this. It's exposing how fragile it really is, and how it can really, in my opinion, it's only being held up by Trump and the executive branch at this point. You've got the Supreme Court, who, because of an absolute moron, an absolute moron being confirmed to the Supreme Court because she was pushed through by Democrats in a period where they had the House, the Senate, and the White House, and Joe Biden had promised to nominate and confirm the first black woman to the Supreme Court, because they don't look at achievements in terms of merit. They look at achievements in terms of, what kind of minority are we, basically, what's the word I'm looking for? Are we serving, what minority group are we bowing and serving to today? Because we got to make sure we hit those. That's the political DEI quota, is not actually, ensuring DEI is something upheld in terms of keeping any kind of things equal or fair in the. They want to do that, but more than anything else, they want to make them happy by guaranteeing them. We want to have people who are more representative of you, meaning they look more like you. Not that they represent your values, not that they represent anything you believe, not that they are into or are in any way like you at all. They just look like you. And that's one of the most disgusting ways to think about representation that I've ever heard. Like, because you look at Clarence Thomas, another guy a black guy, and what happened when he was nominated because it was under a Republican? Oh, he himself called it a electronic lynching on television, and it was a brutal freaking Supreme Court hearing in the Senate for Justice Thomas. Now he is probably the most influential Supreme Court justice. He's the justice who has the most instances of people that were swayed over to his position in their final opinion than anyone else in the Supreme Court, meaning he's more convincing in his argument than anyone else in the Supreme Court of bringing them over to his side of thinking. When it comes to questions in front of people who are the litigants for a case, he asks the least questions and it takes the least amount of time when it's his turn to go through with his examination of the facts. By contrast, our new member, Ketanji Brown Jackson, she by far takes up the most amount of time. She asks the most amount of questions, and they're nonsensical, ridiculous questions that make no sense and have nothing to do with the subject at hand. Like her recent infamous way to justify birthright citizenship by saying that while I'm in Japan, if I steal someone's wallet, I will get arrested by the Japanese government. Therefore, I'm beholden to the country. It's so stupid. But anyway, Clarence Thomas, once again, one of the most impressive constitutional and absolutely red-blooded American and highly like you can tell by the way he speaks, by the way he writes, that he has huge amount of love for the country. And then you can look at some of the other justices on the court, and you can see like the exact opposite. Once again, they don't like Clarence Thomas. In fact, they've called for investigation after investigation on Clarence Thomas. Why? Oh, because there was somebody who donated a boat to him, or someone who donated, it always comes down to something related to, which I don't know how that would, maybe I guess in a case, but that wasn't a litigant in a case. It was a litigant after a case, or I don't know. It didn't make any sense really, but they just were looking for any reason to have. They didn't care if he was found guilty or not. They just want. It's like with Donald Trump before the election. They're just trying to waste time, to get them hung up, to get them stressed out, to make them burn finances, to make them burn time, whatever it is. They want to take as much as possible to get you as mentally exhausted, so that you slip up and maybe make a decision, a bad decision, and this is a black guy, but because he's conservative, he's not a black guy anymore. And that's the way they speak about black conservatives is, the clips I put on several times of the black ICE officers. They're more mistreated than just about anybody in ICE I've seen. Even more so than just your average ICE agent. The black ICE agents are hit with a slew of racial slurs throughout the entire time they're there on the ground, and it's just disgusting, and yet totally permissible. Why am I talking about this? Well, okay, so that's the Supreme Court. What about Congress? Well, talk about a group of people they've just become complacent and just don't give a shit anymore. That's how you can describe Congress at this point. They gave up and stopped caring a long time ago, except for a handful of people that still are trying their damnedest. God bless them. We need them so bad. We can't lose people like this. I'm talking about people like Mike Lee, John Kennedy, it's hard to even come up with other examples. I'm sure I have some other, Tom Cotton. I would say Ted Cruz. I would say in the House you got unfortunately Chip Roy is running for Attorney General of Texas now, so he's gonna be bouncing out now. But you've got of course Jim Jordan. You've got Byron Donalds. You got uh, Jamie Comer. I almost said Jamie Raskin. That's the exact opposite. Sorry. But no, like, you got a handful of people that really care, but you got other people that obviously don't. And I've seen stuff like this happen before, but I've never seen it like this. So the question's been asked by the public. Now that the shutdown, it's still going on, by the way, in case you don't know. The shutdown, the partial shutdown of the country, just DHS, that's still going on. Trump is funny, which, by the way, once again, Trump doesn't take his presidential salary. He donates it all. They got on him about the jet, and it's like, that was supposed to be a gift for all future presidents, not really for Donald Trump. That was another point of the gift. And now he's personally funding himself and trying to find other people that will help to fund the members of the DHS workforce that aren't being funded by the big beautiful bill that was passed mostly just for ICE. But Democrats love it because it's a win on both fronts. But a lot of people have been wondering, and this is something that I agree with totally, if Congress was not receiving their paycheck during a shutdown, wouldn't that incentivize them to hurry it along more? And you bet your ass it would. Like, that's one of the things that you can guarantee, if their paycheck was on the line, there would be no shutdown. There would be some kind of agreement reached. So Senator Kennedy decided, I'm going to bring this to the floor. I'm going to bring this down for a floor vote. Meaning, when you're not doing something by normal vote, you do it by and what is it called? Expedited process of floor vote for. I can't remember the name of the whole process, but essentially, instead of going through full committee, you introduce a bill. It's usually something relatively minor. In this case, it is still relatively minor in the grand scheme of things. To remove the ability of senators to be paid their salary during a government shutdown. He doesn't take his paycheck. This is why I was saying Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz doesn't take his paycheck. Those are the only two people I can confirm for sure. I think there's more. Josh Hawley is another name that comes up. I don't know if he does or not, but another senator that's pretty damn solid as far as fighting for the district he represents at the very least. But the thing is that we get down to the day of the vote. We get down to the floor, and Kennedy's discussing his bill, and I think we should watch what happens before I go through the details, because this is amazing. If you ever wanted to see how sleazy, not just Democrat members of the Senate are, but just people in this body that have no respect for the institution, no respect for the history of the country, no respect for our founding documents, none. Everything they ever said is bullshit, has nothing to do with representing the people, and has to do with lining their pockets as much as possible. It's just this corrupting force, and that's about it. So this is amazing. I've seen things like this. I've never seen one this blatantly disrespectful and cowardly in my life. This is just disgusting. But let me play this clip, because this is just a sign of a greater problem that's going on in the House of Representatives and the Senate, because it honestly is afflicting both, and it's afflicting both parties to a certain extent. Now, I do think the Democrats at this point in time are far more corrupt, because when you have to use AIPAC as the corrupting foreign money group and influence that is making the country go to war. Like AIPAC, the amount AIPAC spends on campaigns is like we're not even talking to the millions here, and yet somehow that's enough to convince Donald Trump that he needs to go to war with Iran. We used to have other demonized groups like I always use the NRA as an example because it's just so blatantly obvious. It was like the NRA is an evil hate group. Wait, what? They're an evil hate group? What are you talking about? Anyway, without NRA though, to demonize, now they're using this well, it's not even them. It's well, you know what? Let's just watch the clip. Sorry, I've rambled on too much. Let's get on to this clip because, like I said, this is astonishing, and things like this, they need to be called out more often. People need to see this because the reason that this is done, you'll see why it's done in a lot of ways. Because you don't see the guy, you don't hear his voice, and he gets away with everything he tried to get away with. And he did exactly what he was told to do. That's another part to remember. But that's why I say this is a symptom of a much greater problem. And so I'll stop hyping it up and we'll just get to it. But this is something that I've been really wanting to show on an episode at some point. And it's a little long. I'll try to skip around to the points that are most important. But it's really, there's some points that just have to be played through. So I'll get to the most important points as fast as possible. So here we go. This is Senator Kennedy's bill on not paying members of the United States Senate and House of Representatives during a government shutdown. So and he had Senator Moreno as a co-sponsor to the bill.
Concept that's important in creating a culture that says, as a leader, you must be willing to live in the shared experience of your team. Now, I will contradict a little bit of what you said. Each of us in this chamber make $175,000 a year. That's not what the average American makes. That is dramatically more than the average American makes. And it's certainly a lot more than what the average TSA worker makes, what the average FEMA worker who's got to go out and help places all over the country. I saw the very sad storms that Hawaii is seeing, and I hope we get help to those people. But it's not going to be me that goes there. It's going to be the hardworking men and women of FEMA that go there, and they make a fraction of what we do. I can't imagine having a job in which for the third time in 6 months, you have to explain to your wife or husband or kids, hey, I didn't get a paycheck today. And the kids looking at you going, well, what did you do? Like, what did you do to not get a paycheck? Were you insubordinate? Did you not show up for work? Did you yell at your boss? Nope. I did everything right. Other than work for the Department of Homeland Security. Why would you stay in that job? And I think that's the thing that we don't understand is people have breaking points where they just say, I'm just not going to work here anymore. And this particular agency, more than anything else, has a very simple charter to protect us from dangers from abroad. These are the people that chase transnational criminals. I don't think any of us in this chamber would be willing to go do that. It's tough work. It's brutal work. They put their lives at risk.
Some of them would definitely not want to.
Not only do I think we should give them their paychecks,
not just
I think we should say thank you.
The danger, but
thank you for being willing to do this job. And I'll end with this to my colleagues. We have to eat our own dog food. If we don't eat our own dog food, we will get disconnected permanently from the people that we serve. If we're willing to accept a paycheck that is 3-4 times what the average American makes, and we deposit that every month, we say, well, look, I got to pay the bills. I don't care how wealthy you are. If somebody's a multimillionaire or not a multimillionaire, 175 grand a year is a lot of money. Certainly enough to pay the bills. Just ask the people who make 3 times less than that. They figure out how to make the bills. And this isn't about giving up the paycheck or giving up money, which, by the way, I think we should. Like, I don't think we should get paid retroactively. I think we should just say, hey, look, you didn't do your fundamental duty, which is to fund the government. And if you have a policy dispute, then do the hard work. Go into the rooms and make the calls and go out there and persuade your colleagues. But in the meantime, don't punish the workers. Don't punish the workers. I grew up coming to America in the 70s and 80s.
I was trying to skip around. You get the idea.
I looked at Democrats like Tip O'Neill and JFK. These were...
Let's see. Oh, man, he goes on for a while long. There we go. Okay. Let's get the end of the speech there.
Yield back.
Here, Mr. President, and my good friend Senator Moreno, is the message that it will send if we do not pass this resolution. If it weren't for double standards, we wouldn't have any standards at all.
Classic
If it
John
weren't for
Kennedy
double
quote.
standards, we wouldn't have any standards at all. Now, the American people see what's going on. As I've said before, not every American reads Aristotle every day. They're too busy earning a living. They're too busy getting up, going to work, obeying the law, trying to do the right thing by their kids. As usual, Senator Moreno makes very salient points. He's aware, as am I, that once again, this is a resolution that just affects the Senate. It doesn't affect the House. Senator Moreno is well aware, as am I, and every member of this body, that this is a bipartisan resolution. To change the Senate rules, I had to go to the Rules Committee. My resolution, our resolution, passed the Rules Committee unanimously. Every single Republican and every single Democrat.
Now remember that point, because there's a reason for that. Think about, while you're watching this whole thing, think about optics, and it'll all make sense, of course. But just think about the idea of what each party is doing, and then think about that idea of optics in that environment. So hold on, because as he just said, this is only on the Senate side. It's not on the House. Maybe the House will bring up their own version of it, but they can't force them to. This is not a bill that is, national legislation. This is a bill for specifically rules for the Senate and the Senate alone, not the legislative branch of the government. But it sends a statement. It sends a very strong statement that because we are also government employees, that's the biggest reason. Maybe even more so, actually, I take that back, even more so, we are the government employees charged with making the laws and charged with the power of the purse to decide where funding goes, who gets it, and how much, and under what circumstances, people don't get their money. And as the Democrats have been deciding that, it's worth everyone in the country suffering as long as it helps Trump's poll numbers go down a little bit, which I think is the most revealing and disgusting thing you could ever do. Think about how he just said that in the Rules Committee, it passed unanimously. Now he's on the floor after it passed unanimously in the Rules Committee. They're on the floor, but it passed unanimously, and he needs to only have no one come down and object to the bill, and then it'll pass. But it only takes one person to pass to a floor bill introduced this way, and it can be objected to in that fashion. And if it's objected to, it obviously doesn't pass. They can try to redraft it, rewrite it, bring it back, whatever. But that part is amazing, and I didn't hear all the same details the first time I played, so I didn't hear about how certain elements of that. I can't remember. I can't really remember everything that he's able to do. There's anyway. Sorry, I'm getting lost in thought. But this is let's get back to this, and with those things in mind, let's get to what's going to happen here with this vote.
Voted for this resolution. What I hear Senator Moreno saying in a very eloquent way, yes, there are varying degrees of wealth in this chamber, but we all make $170,000 a year, and that's a fortune for most Americans. I'm not saying that senators don't earn that. This bill's not meant to punish anybody. I know some senators who work so hard that $170,000 a year is probably equivalent to about $11 an hour.
One other thing, too, to point out is that while they're talking about this, it's also important to know that once the shutdown is over, you get reimbursed for your back pay for every time, and so does every other federal employee. The problem is that, when you're on a really low budget and you don't have money put away for an emergency or something, and which in all likelihood senators most likely have some sort of cushion that they can rely on for some extra money in case of an emergency like this, and your average worker in DHS most definitely does not have that level of financial stability and security to where they're not going to worry at all about the government deciding to shut down for a few months as they complain about Trump and his authoritarian policies and his genocide in Iran. I think they're more concerned about why we're not getting paid for our job, and now the Democrats are, once again, this is why I say, these midterms are going to be very, very, I'm going to be on the edge of my seat, because if Democrats are rewarded for doing what they've done, shutting down the government to protest Trump, allowing citizens to get into fights with ICE officers which have ended in bloodshed, and then blame that on ICE and on Trump, and fighting in court for such wonderful human beings as MS-13 gangbangers and Hamas terrorist cheerleaders, so they can stay in the country rather than getting their asses deported and getting the hell out of this country and go back to their own fucking home country. While they've been focusing on that, at the same time, they've been demonizing Trump's actions everywhere as genocidal, and he's lost his mind, and he's going as a... Okay, well, you don't trust Bibi, so I can't reference him. You don't trust anyone in Israel or with the IDF, so you can't use quotes from them, because that wouldn't mean anything. Basically, there's no evidence I'm going to be able to project, and it's just like I said, it lays everything out on display for what these people care about. And we're about to get to the climax of this clip here, but here we go.
I mean, they're working all the time. This isn't about that. This is about shared values.
Yes, absolutely.
This is about sending a message to our colleagues at TSA and elsewhere in DHS that we understand that we're trying to get government back open. But in the meantime, we're going to try in our small way to share your experience. So I would ask my colleagues, please, I don't like to talk too much about doing the right thing because I think everybody in this body wants to do the right thing.
Oh,
we just disagree sometimes.
I think we're going to disagree after
over
this.
what the right thing is. But honestly, I don't see how any one of my colleagues can disagree with either the spirit or the letter of this resolution. So, Mr. President, as if in legislative session,
now,
and notwithstanding Rule 22,
get ready to pay close attention.
I ask unanimous consent the Senate proceed to the consideration of calendar number 296, SRES 526, which Senator Moreno and I have just talked about. And further, that the resolution be agreed to and the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table.
Is there an objection? The objection is heard.
Did you hear it? Did you hear it? Did you hear it? No mic. No, Mr. President, Senator from blah, blah, blah. I've heard that in every single floor, like attempted a floor floor proposal for a bill. I've heard that every single time as a process, meaning be considered made and laid upon the table. Is there objection? Mr. President, Senator from blah, reserving the right to object, blah, 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 blah. Or, on some rare instances, Mr. President, Senator from blah, 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 I object. The objection is heard. Both ways I've heard. I've never heard, is there objection? I object. No microphone, shouting out, not calling to be heard. And this actually brings up a point of contention. I'll just get a quick little bit of this because this goes on for a while. But I've never seen this happen at any congressional hearing I've ever seen. I've never seen anyone do anything like this. And we'll go over this in just a second. But let me play it one more time in case you didn't hear it, because it's easy to miss it. I missed it the first two times. I was like, where is it? I don't even hear it. I finally heard it, and I was like, oh, that's it. Okay, I hear. It says, I object. And he's in and out before you even get a look at him. I don't even know if the cameras knew where he was. So one more time, let's go ahead and go through that. You can tell that, and you know, the people that sit in the chair for the presiding senator over the floor during the after hours floor time for the Senate. They're usually more senior senators who have been in the body for a decent amount of time, know the rules really well, know how all the quorum sorts of all the quorums are handled procedurally, and how to handle them from start to finish the way that is coinciding with the rules for the Senate. And so I'm sure he's not lying when he says there's nothing against the rules to do it this way. But once again, I've never, ever seen it done this way, because generally, even when they're disagreeing, they want to at least make sure that they were officially recognized and their vote was their objection was put on the record honestly and with the endorsement of their party usually. In this case, none of those things happened, and it was virtually the exact opposite. This was like a pitch black in the middle of the night assassination on the bill, and then a smoke bomb thrown as he escapes from the freaking scene of the crime. I swear, it's amazing. It's amazing. So one more time, let's just go through that, because I'm just, when I saw this, I couldn't believe it, because I've never seen this. It's like I've seen it. The worst time I had seen it was with Senator Cruz at one point, where he was proposing a series of bills. It was about 4 or 5 bills in sequence, and first 2 votes, the senator that was opposing objected. The third time, he tried to offer some kind of weird sort of argument that this isn't serious legislation. This is theater. We already have real committees in the Senate actually working on real bipartisan legislation for this issue. So this isn't a real bill. It's spelled incorrectly. There's dates are wrong. This is just an embarrassment, Mr. President. So I object. Then when Senator Cruz takes the mic again, he's like, by the way, first of all, the reason that there's spelling errors and dates are wrong is because this is an early draft. This isn't the final draft that he's using. This was a draft when we still didn't have all of the details ironed out. So that's why the number is wrong and the date is wrong on the copy you have. I can give you the real copy if you want it, but I don't think you care. And then he went on to say, I don't understand how, okay, there's a committee working on it. How does that make this not real? I'm a senator. I can make laws. I can pass laws. I can bring laws to the floor, and I can pass them so that we can get legislation going. And if the committee that's working on this has a better sort of solution, then we can have that one be brought up and void mine after we pass it, if it's preferred by everybody in the Senate. But for the time being, until then, while there's still no resolution to this issue, this would at least put a temporary fix on the problem until we can get it through committee. How is this something that would be quote unquote not real? It was such a shitty argument, and it was all made in bad faith. And once again, it's just taking subtle jabs at everybody to try and act like you're so stupid. We're going through committee to hear this. That's the right way to do. Well, no, this is the right way to do it too. It's called floor votes, and you can do it this way. You guys have passed legislation. In fact, this was Cory Booker's stupid hair fucking bill got passed. That was so important to Black America to have the hair bill, and not having a bill, to help their most crime-ridden areas and in impoverished areas of urban cities that are notorious for violence. Like, no, we need the hair bill. That's what we need. So it's just like, once again, just wave after wave of stupid decisions. So one more time, let me just do this, because like I said, this is just so amazing. But and then we'll go over the fallout.
Resolution be agreed to, and the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table.
Is there an objection? The objection is heard.
There was.
Am I needed, Gary? Someone else?
I swear. Pathetic. Pathetic.
With respect, I want to give my colleague, Senator Schatz, more time. As he objected and left the chamber, is he coming back?
He obviously knew who it was, but he's not coming back.
Wait, just one second. I mean, is he
quick question?
Is he ill?
Is he ill? Oh, he's ill, all right. he's sick as fuck, but he's
What
not.
should I do, Mr. President? Should I give him more time or?
This is so amazing.
Mr. President, point of order. Is it appropriate for someone not to be recognized to just say, I object and run out? The senator's not been recognized. The senator had the floor, the senator from Louisiana, who's made a proposal, and then I heard some noise in the background, and that was it. But I never heard a senator being recognized. So it sounds to me that no one has been recognized to object.
What? Could we get a ruling, Mr. President? I don't want to be unfair to anybody. My Democratic colleagues, I told them ahead of time.
An objection was raised, an objection was heard.
So should we give Senator Schatz more time to come back, or?
He's not coming back.
Should we give him more time to come back and explain?
He's not going to.
Wait, I see the parliamentarian giving us some guidance. Tony, trust me, I know what I'm doing.
The chair cannot answer that.
Okay. May I inquire why not, sir?
The chair cannot answer that. Like, are you serious? Now, this is a Republican.
Not opine on
chair.
why a senator is in the chamber or not in the chamber.
Can you opine on why my colleague objected and then immediately left, and whether he's coming back?
Not an appropriate parliamentary inquiry.
Mr. President, my parliamentary inquiry is a bit different than that. I never heard a senator recognized
This is the important part, right?
from
the
chair by the President of the Senate. The President of the Senate, you had the senator from Louisiana had the floor. The presiding officer said, "Is there objection?" At which time, routinely, someone seeks recognition on the floor.
Usually.
And the objection was heard.
The senator does not need the floor to.
The senator does not need the floor to object.
So I just want to be sure, Mr. President, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I see our parliamentarians here and they can give you able advice. Does that mean I can object to anything at any time without being recognized?
That's correct.
I don't even have to get the floor.
Does not need the floor.
The senator does not need the floor to object to
So
a
I can
unanimous
walk
consent.
in the middle of a debate
And there we go.
without the floor, right back here in front of God and country, and say, I object, and it shuts things down? I don't understand that.
That's exactly how.
If there is a unanimous consent request pending, any senator in the chamber can object,
Including the chair.
including the chair.
Without having the floor.
That's correct.
So, think about that right there. That's why I am just like, this gives you the perfect insight into, like, you know, with all the things that Congress has that they use for deciding legislation, this is why I've been talking about this a lot more lately, and I just think that the concept of the legislative branch in its current form is almost like it's almost been rendered essentially useless. Like there's not much point in having it structured or with the set of rules and functions and how they're carried out in the current state of the country and the current state of the political parties, because you know, there's very few instances where you'll see someone who raises an issue in good faith. It's not meant to damage another political party. It's not meant to. Now, do I think this might and definitely should influence people's idea of the Democratic? Absolutely, I think it should, because there was all Republicans on the floor arguing for the bill, and one Democrat who probably ran out at the behest of Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, maybe Hakeem Jeffries, who's not really Hakeem Jeffries. He's the representative of the the authority who runs Congress. Essentially, it blows my mind every time. Essentially, it's something they've recognized. Okay, well, it's going to look really bad if we object to this bill and we try to argue a point against it. But we can object, and we don't have to even argue it. We'll just object and get out of there. Which I've seen this done in this way before, where, like I said, with Ted Cruz, same thing. Although in that case, it was a recognition, and then I object. This way just flipped everything on its head, because it's not just the point of being heard by the chamber. The more important part is that if you're a United States senator and they're going through the process of a floor bill, and I always forget the name of this actual way this is actually introduced, but if they're going through the process of voting on the bill on the floor, and if there is an objection, you don't necessarily have to make an argument for the objection. You can object for any reason, but you should own the fact that you're objecting. What this does is it allows people to, like I said, like a thief in the night. You run in, you don't ask to be acknowledged, you don't wait for the acknowledgement, object to the bill, and then exit the chamber. You don't even do that. You wander in, you wait for the opportunity, you shout, "I object," and then you run out because you know you did it, and that's it. That's all you have to do. You don't have to own anything. And you heard what John Kennedy said. They went through the Rules Committee. They had, they probably had several freaking iterations of how to get this bill through that satisfied both parties. And then he brings it down to the floor, and one lone Democrat who was not doing it just out of his own will. He had the rest of the party behind him, or at least the part that is influential enough to make these sorts of decisions, come out there, because I know who the senator is they're talking about. He's the really short-looking, almost looks like a really short Italian guy. Like, I don't even know how to describe him, but he's the one that objected, and I think that's who it is. Actually, I think I just, but that is honestly, like I said, I'm just stunned. And so, to anybody out there who thought that the shutdown or the agents being funded or the money that was being held up, and Congress trying to do the right thing, and the Democrats fighting for the people, it's like, you just heard this right now. They don't care. They don't care about anybody they have to deny money for. They're getting their money. They don't care. They don't feel any pressure. In fact, as tensions rise, they feel better. They're getting happier. Why? Because they can scapegoat Trump for it. It's all Trump's fault. It's all Trump doing. Well, Trump already wasn't taking a check, just like Senator Kennedy wasn't taking a check, just like Ted Cruz wasn't taking a check. I think there's a couple other members who aren't taking their check until the DHS funding goes back in place. And at that point, they'll start getting their checks again. But once again, these are people who actually have some principles. They actually have some values. They're actually people worthy of being elected and rightly earned their spot in the body. Then you have people who rely on gerrymandering their states, manipulated districts, manipulated talking points, areas that have no oppositional talking points they even mention. Any point that, the fact that they still like talk about no, no. Anyway, I'm sorry. But yeah, this is just an embarrassment. It's just a flat out embarrassment. I can't believe that this is what it actually is going to now. And once again, like if you're an employee at the Department of Homeland Security and you're not getting your money, and you see some senators who come out, they've discussed it on the Rules Committee, they are bringing a bill to the floor, and you see this, you think, wow, maybe there'll be some action then. There'll be some actual motivation among people to actually, make this shutdown finally come to an end and start paying people their paychecks. And you think it's going to go fine because, it doesn't look like anybody's going to object. And it was set. And then some little rat runs in and shouts, I object, and then runs out. No argument, no recognition, no mic. Barely hear him on the camera microphones probably. And he's off. So anyway, I'm sorry. I'm trying to gather my thoughts together and kind of come up with a way to give a final, because what I'm trying to do is relate this back to what we were just talking about before. So you have Eric Swalwell, who as a matter of fact, how about we end that saga out with this? Because I think this is a great way to kind of contrast this, and then we'll do one more segment because I really want to do it. But and I'm sorry, I'm going to go a little long this episode, but I think it'll be worth it because there's so much stuff going on, and some of it's kind of funny. This one's really depressing. This one's so fucking depressing. Swalwell is sad, and it's unfortunate. But watching him kind of lightens the mood, at least when he's acting like a fucking buffoon. So it's not as difficult to see, but this right here is just devastating, because you ever had a question about whether or not your representatives actually gave a shit about you and your safety and the safety of the country and anything like that? The proof is right here. No, absolutely not. As long as they're getting their paycheck, they don't care what happens. They don't care if there's a FEMA. They don't care if there's a Secret Service. They don't care if there's a border patrol too, but they don't care if there's a Coast Guard. They don't care about any of this stuff. They live in a community that has far better security than any of these places. They're not worried at all. And just in case there does happen to be a group of people outside their home picketing. Well, it won't be like when they're picketing in front of the House of SCOTUS members, when they were getting ready for the Dobbs decision to be handed down, where the protesters were outside and some guy went to go kill Justice Kavanaugh. Instead, it'll actually be a situation where I don't know if your security will even catch the guy before he gets in. I don't know if he'll be able to detect the maniac who is there to torture and murder you and your whole family because of your ruling on the abortion debate in the Supreme Court, which decided it wasn't going to decide one way or another. It was going to allow each individual state to decide. I don't see authoritarianism in that decision. And yet, we want the money. Fuck DHS. Fuck all the departments under them. We don't care about FEMA. We don't care about all this. But if you really want to know, it's Trump's fault. It's MAGA Republicans. We Democrats, we care about people. We just want comprehensive immigration. So, like I said, kind of bringing this back home. Let's end on little contrasting picture as a sort of farewell sending to Eric Swalwell, and he will not be missed, but moments like some of these will. So let me see. There's the first one is a little bit more. I don't know what you call this one. Is oh, I think it. Yeah, this is actually good enough. So, so anyway, let me get that clip up. Oh, actually, before I do that, I meant to play this after that because another senator, one of the most disgusting senators in the entire body, and potentially, up there with Biden and, some of the most disgusting people to ever be supposedly a lawmaker for the United States and for a district in a state that he represents, openly here admitting that that's not his concern. Just like when Ilhan Omar said she'll always put the people of Somalia above all others, and essentially admitted to violating her oath that she swore when she was going into Congress, that she was going to be there to defend the people of her district and look out for their interests above anyone else's, and the country's interest above everyone else's. Any other state or any other countries. And yet, here we have Senator Murphy, Mr. Super Morality himself, like his middle name's Morality, except it's preceded by lack of Morality Murphy. Anyway, I don't know if this was a slip of the tongue or this was just a like a Freudian slip, or if this was like a something that was meant to come out and sound much better than it ended up sounding. But it sounds about as bad as you could possibly imagine it sounds. And I mean, I won't use the phrase mask off moment because it's a stupid idea, but how about this? How about truth-telling moment? And how about, here we go, let's hear it. What is it, Senator Murphy? What is it that's true here? Because I want to hear it directly from your mouth to the people at home. What is it that who is it that you support and defend above all others? I want to know, who is it?
For my 20 years covering this issue, the trade is this: they want more border security and enhancement. Democrats want a path to citizenship. This time around, the negotiation didn't have a path to citizenship. It was entirely on their terms in order to get Ukraine funding, right?
Well, I mean, Chris, that's been a failed play for 20 years. So right. You are right that has been the Democratic strategy for 30 years, maybe. And it has failed to deliver for the people we care about most, the undocumented Americans that are in this country. This is also not 2013 any longer, when we ran that play last.
What was that? The people we care about most? The undocumented immigrants in this country? Wait, what's the term he used? I forgot. I thought
that has been the Democratic strategy for 30 years, maybe, and it has failed to deliver for the people we care about most, the undocumented Americans that are in this country. This is also not 2013 any longer, when we ran that play last.
Fucking oxymoron. Undocumented Americans. How fucking sick is this? Like, no, they're not Americans. They're, they're, they've never been considered Americans. Honestly, if you're their spokesman, I never want them to be Americans. Because if you're going to tell me that this is who you care about most openly in an interview with Chris, the little bitch boy Hayes, on his little propaganda network, where he's talking about, which, by the way, I believe this is a discussion about that wonderful bill that was going to solve the immigration crisis under Biden, which that was bullshit. All it was going to do was, the whole point of it was to handcuff Trump from enforcing border security when he became the president. That was the point of the bill, so that it would be codified into law that you weren't able to even block entry to the country via illegal immigrants just being subjected to catch and release type policies. You were required to follow through with that until you reached like 5,000 in a day, in which case you had to, in that case, you had the option. You weren't even required. You had the option to seal the border at that point. It was a bullshit bill. And sorry, no, it wasn't because Trump shut it down. It was because the people that were staying in Congress read it and they're like, yeah, this is terrible. No. The only reason it had any kind of quote unquote bipartisan support is because, and I feel bad for James Langford in this, I really do. They probably had the idea that, and I'm giving them, and by them I mean Republican leadership, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt of this, that they didn't just send him as a lamb to slaughter, knowing that they were going to have to take, somebody. And by the way, I would take James Langford over pretty much anyone in leadership in the Senate, and probably in the House too. Most definitely over Senator Thune and over anyone like Chuck Schumer or anybody on the left. With maybe Fetterman's all right. We'll see, but regardless, the point being that the most important issue here is that they knew that the Democrats weren't going to be reasonable. They knew that he was going to be kind of played and led along like led along like they're playing a fiddle, basically to coax him into going along with this, going along with that, and then they throw in the freaking the most contentious point at the last minute that they basically force on him, or it's not going to go through, and put him in the position of like, well, it's either this or nothing. And we've been working all this time. Do you want to be the one responsible for not getting the border bill brought in front of the Congress, and being the only one on the Republican side selected to take part in these bipartisan sessions for debating this bill? I don't see how in the hell that is considered debate when you aren't involving literally as many people as possible to discuss the issue, considering how important the issue is to the country. And then you try to pin it all on James Langford, who, yes, I get it. He was, I bet you more than anything, he was concerned as hell about how he was going to be perceived as it was released, because he was going to be seen as someone who was not trying to do anything to help. And I think he just got played, and he was trying to save face, and it just didn't make him look any better. And I feel bad for him, because I've heard him since, and he's not in any way a open border guy at all. He's from freaking Oklahoma. That is the single most red state in the country. I mean, if you look at the demographics, you look at the state, it is the most red state in the country by a decent little margin. But still, Oklahoma's there's no way in hell a senator from Oklahoma is going to be proposing and attempting to get his colleagues to go along with a border bill that essentially guarantees there's an allowance of people to be brought in under catch and release policies to be released into the interior of the country. Same way during the Biden administration, but put that forward as a policy that they must use. It's not only optional anymore. Now you have to do that. And there's some number they pick out, which happens to be 5,000 a day. And if you remember, under Biden, there were sometimes 11,000 in any single day, which, so it's not exactly hitting the most highest number at that point, but I can't remember when it's no longer optional. They must shut it down. I can't remember what that number was, but it was significantly higher. It was a bullshit bill. And now you got this asshole coming out here to talk about it, and he gives up the game right away that, well, we were trying to get this passed because we've been trying to do this for years for the people we care about most, undocumented Americans. Chris Murphy is an absolute sleazebag. He's a piece of garbage. He's a horrible human being. He's an absolutely misleading liar. He has no interest serving the people of this country. He doesn't give a shit about the country. He'd rather probably watch the country just fall apart as long as he gets his paycheck. But anyway, this is reflective of the greater mindset that is just sweeping through the Democrat Party right now. And if you're an older Democrat who is more traditional thinking, too bad. Get in line or get out. That's their thought on the matter, and that's why Chuck Schumer is keeping this stupid freaking funding bill done the way it is. And I never thought I would be this like hardline on this, but I am on the side of President Trump on this because of two reasons. I think that you need to do away with the filibuster because, number one, you're never going to pass anything. You're never going to pass anything unless you do away with it at this point. It's clear the Democrats are going to, and I guarantee you, this worked during Trump. They find another Republican president gets elected. They know this works. Anytime anything comes up that they don't like, they'll just do this. If there's a filibuster in place, then they'll use it. And they'll use it over and over again to make sure they get what they want. But their real goal is to use the filibuster and do away with it so that they can add DC and Virgin Islands and like one other territory as new states where there's new representatives, so they can add. And by the way, those places just happen to be deep blue. They want to add 5 new members to the Supreme Court so they can make it a majority Democrat Supreme Court, which, by the way, as you look at Amy Coney Barrett and you look at even Justice Gorsuch, they don't vote party line at all. I mean, their record is kind of mixed. The only one who seems pretty firmly on the Republican side of issues usually is that Trump nominated was Brett Kavanaugh, and the other two can be kind of flopping on different issues depending on what the subject is. The latest ruling on birthright citizenship is absolute bullshit. I don't see how a reading of it would come up with that at all. We'll get to that in another episode sometime. I don't have time for that right now, but so it's not like we have they call it right because they passed Dobbs. They call it a conservative Senate or a conservative Supreme Court because they passed the Dobbs decision. They overturned Roe v. Wade, which was a horrible freaking decision, forcing the concept of abortion onto states that they have to be able to facilitate abortion. And not just that, they have to be able to do it at the expense of taxpayers and regardless of faith or anything else like that. I mean, it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. One day, if we'll probably have to get into a longer discussion about abortion so you can know where I fall on the spectrum, but because I'm not in any way, shape, or form at all like Democrat freaking when it comes to abortion. I have a little bit more, I'm not hardline conception, and I know I depart from a lot of conservatives in that way of thinking. I get it. It's not that I disagree with that. Really, for me, and I know this is kind of sick in a lot of ways, but I argue it because I just I struggle with the case that like I don't want to have any way to be able to do something to make sure that a mother is going to be capable of taking care of her child, and I support the idea of abortion instead, or not abortion, adoption as opposed to abortion. But what I don't like is when the women have the children, and these are usually like Hispanic cultured women that come from a family of strong tradition, but are fucked up in gang culture, drug culture, whatever it might be, and end up having kids that either grow up and are killed in a drug shootout, or have a kid who ends up with ambitions to become a member of of MS-13 or some other gang. Like I just see people from places that have the ideals of the tradition of their heritage, but they while they're pregnant they glorify gang culture. They're part of it in the first place, and they didn't get pregnant by being in a relationship and getting married. They did it by getting passed around by gangbangers. It's like it's just the culture that is around in that respect is so disgusting, and I hate it when I see, like, I can't remember the name of the kid, but the kid, there was a documentary series, I think it was on Netflix, about the kid who's got picked up by an ambulance late one night at his mom and his stepdad's house, and had basically in some way been beaten to death. But when they pulled the kid into the autopsy room and they examined his body, is like from the description of the examiner, is like there wasn't a spot on the kid's body that didn't have a scratch, a bruise, a cigarette burn. Fucking, like, sick shit. This kid had been forced into a little dresser where the cupboard opens up, and shoved in there with a bungee cord wrapped around the handles. He'd been forced to eat cat shit out of the fuck. I mean, I think about cases like that and I just go, man, it's hard. I can't even say I support abortion, but it's like I look at those and I say, what do you do? Because you can't override the mother, obviously, but like the kid knew nothing but suffering. It's just, man, I'm getting emotional about it even. I'm sorry. I don't mean to get emotional. It's just, and then you look at this people like this piece of shit who, yeah, sure, more abortions, more illegal Americans. Like, fuck off. Go to hell. Jesus. How inhuman are you? Like, what kind of fucking evil piece of garbage do you have to be to fucking have that kind of dismissive way of thinking about a group of people? They're undocumented Americans, not undocumented immigrants. They're undocumented. They're American. They're American. In what fucking way? So, anyway, I need to lighten it back up. Let's do a palate cleanser sort of thing. Let's use this as our send off. We'll just use this as our goodbye to Congressman Eric Swalwell at the end of his gubernatorial campaign, and hopefully very soon an end to his Senate or his House career. And I'm sure he'll find work on BS Now or CNN or ABC. One of them will take him. If they take Peter Strzok, they'll take him too. So with that, I give you the greatest hits from Senator Swalwell. And yeah, this should be a delight for all of you. So I hope you enjoy it because no, it wasn't really that hard to edit this one, but yeah. Anyway. By the way, this opens with a. This was from Brett Cooper's show. I forget what it's called after she left Daily Wire. But anyway, this is various clips from her montage, and it uses this first one as his opening pitch for governor on none other than Jimmy Kimmel's show, and then we go into some of the best moments from Eric Swalwell, and some of them are fantastic. And then I'll add one closer from a previous episode of mine, and then we'll go on.
What are we going to do? How do you stop this?
Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I love California. It's the greatest country in the world. Greatest country in the world. But that's why it pisses me off to see Californians running through the fields where they work from ICE agents or troops in our streets.
It's horrifying.
It's horrifying.
It's absolutely
Or cancer research
horrifying.
Being canceled. It's awful to look at. And our state, this great state, needs a fighter and a protector, someone who will bring prices down, lift wages up. And we can say that we're the fourth largest economy in the world, and we are, and I love to brag about that. But what does that mean if you can't afford to live here? So I've been in these fights as a city council member up in Dublin, my hometown, as a prosecutor in Oakland, and taking on the most corrupt president ever in the U.S. Congress. But I'm ready to bring this fight home. So I came here tonight, Jimmy, to tell you and your audience that I'm running to be the next governor of California. The evidence is uncontradicted that the president used taxpayer dollars to ask the Ukrainians to help him cheat an election.
That's real.
What in the hell is this?
That was real, by the way. That wasn't a sound effect added. He really ripped one on. He really ripped one that loud on the fucking news. It sounds like he fucking started a little bit. Like, I bet he shit his pants.
Ask the Ukrainians to help him cheat an election.
What in the hell is this?
And this is great.
The chairman tweets, protect our ducks and kittens in Ohio because he goes down some crazy rabbit hole, completely debunked that aliens are eating pets.
Look at that. He said aliens, by the way.
Are you okay, Mr. Chairman?
I don't know. Are you okay? Because you're about to go bye-bye. Goodbye, Senor Swalwell. There's so much more to it, but you don't need to hear any more. The guy's an idiot. He's a douche. Speaking of which, one last quick little just note. It's not even a clip. It's just a note. That's it. Because we played this clip not too long ago, but it seems fitting to use this as a send-off because, I mean, how else would you remember Eric Swalwell than this quote right here from, where is it? I know it's here. Let's see that here. Oh. Ah. Yep, I think this is it. Yeah, this has to be it. Okay. All right. So, if you can't remember, this is our good friend. Not our good friend. I don't know him, but I like his show. Adam Carolla. What was it about Swalwell again? I can't remember.
A couple nights ago, I met.
Oh, I thought it was at the very beginning. I know what to look for in this. I think it's this right here. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm sorry. It's not even worth it, but I swear it is worth it. Oh, it should be, yeah, it should be right here. Okay.
Stop. Can you guys just let shit go once you've been proven wrong, or are we just going to keep going? With this?
ICE has taken care of more children. Is it one?
Yes, but it's still more.
It's still more.
Still 100% more. All right. Swalwell's such a fucking douche. And I don't know.
There we go. There we go. That was what I was looking for. Can you hear that one more time?
Is it one?
Yes, but it's still more.
It's still more.
Still 100% more. All right. Swalwell's such a fucking douche. And I don't know why.
I don't even believe. Swalwell is such a fucking douche. Absolutely. So I'm going to try and make this quick because, man, we're pushing hours right now, and I don't want to go too long. But I was going to throw this in because this was just too good. I'll follow through with the other clip later, but because there's all kinds of shit going on. I talked about it at the beginning of the show. Brian Shapiro, oh my God, the guy has become this weird troll that pops up everywhere, except he's super serial all the time. I'm super serial, like Al Gore. But he and like he unironically always talks about how intelligent he is and how like someone thinks they're smarter than him. It's like it's such projection, and he's probably somebody that he is just constantly raging at, no matter whether he's talking about him or not, is Andrew Wilson. I mean, completely out of his league. He has got nowhere near the level of skill in. He doesn't even have anywhere near the comprehension of the English language to be able to even compete with him in terms of just a debate on semantics and definitions of words, as opposed to a debate about the greater content around those terms and words. But because he can't contain his rage, he's been spurging out constantly, and he finds anybody that's in the orbit of Andrew Wilson. So like for example, especially when it comes to like Rob Knorr is a great example. He's had a couple interactions with Jake Rattlesnake on Rattlesnake TV, but there's been some interaction with Myron Gaines, and then there was that long interview where I think we played parts of it with Jay Dyer. That might have been something I skipped over. I can't remember for sure. In fact, I might have to go back and check just to make sure, because he got his ass whipped in that debate. But the problem is he just, like, once again, he uses straw man arguments constantly. He uses the most obvious reductio ad absurdum type stances to try to immediately suggest the worst of intentions and just like exacerbate the idea so far away from its original point that was being made. It doesn't even resemble what the guy was saying. And he seems to have this weird feeling that it's all Andrew Wilson's fault. He blames Andrew Wilson for almost all of it. There's another guy, Cool TV, I think it's Cool TV, or Cool JC or something. I don't know. It's KEWL. He's got a good show. He mostly reacts to debate channels, Andrew's channels, and a bunch of debate channels, and people that are on people that are regular debaters, basically. But he was the one who I originally saw. By the way, not Andrew Wilson, the Brian Shapiro, almost 18 minutes straight rant on Rob Noor, when Rob basically was just like, this guy's not going to shut up. He's not going to stop talking over me. I'll just let him talk. And you could just see Rob sitting there just like letting him go. And he just keeps going and going. He keeps going around in circles over and over and over again. And finally, after a certain amount of time, he just kind of realizes that, oh shit, there's another guy here. I'm not just talking to myself or to the mirror. Let's bring Rob back. So Rob, you know, and he tries to bring him in on some shitty ass like pathetic little stunt to try and pretend like he agreed with all the points he was making. And Rob just goes right back into the subject that they left off on. He just gets so angry. He just gets so angry at everything. And this, I don't know what came first. This is a chicken or egg situation. I don't know which one came first. But I will say this led to, actually, no, I do know, at least in some respects, because I think the cartoon came out first. And this is hilarious. Because, let me just check one thing before I go into this. Andrew made this. Andrew got, I guess I don't know if he's friends with somebody or he's got a contact with somebody or if he just outsourced it to somebody to make it. But there's this cartoon, and I swear, the guy who does Brian's voice is so spot on. He sounds just like Brian. I swear, it sounds just like him. Just as pompous, just as arrogant, just as condescending. But of course, he's talking in the mirror while he looks like a fucking weird gremlin talking shit with his bucky ass teeth and his stupid looking hat and his fucking, oh man. Anyway, and it goes into a sequence where he's going to fight like it looks just like Super Punch Out or Mike Tyson's Punch Out, and they kind of set him up to be like the Glass Joe type character, and he fights the people he's been in debates with. Andrew Wilson's the referee at the end, and I'll let you guys see it's glorious. It is hilarious because of how accurate it is. But Andrew put this out, and gosh, Brian watches this. He claims he laughed, and then he realized, wow, what pathetic people. And I'm like, yeah, such pathetic people that they would put it on their show and talk about it, devote all this time to it, and then go into the most pathetic thing ever. I guess I'll just say it now. He does the most gay of all gay moves you can do. The fight me IRL shit. He literally goes into the fight me IRL move that all internet tough guys do whenever they fucking are getting their ass handed to them by some guy who keeps coming back and they can't get one up on them ever. So what do they go to? They go to the fight me IRL shit. It's so fucking lame, and you know, I'm sure Andrew's got fucking way more fucking shit to worry about than fighting Brian Shapiro in a boxing match. But it's so pathetic. It is so pathetic. Anybody, I swear, I'm sorry, anybody that's into this whole fight me IRL loser ass fucking idea, sorry, you're fucking pathetic. Just like learn to fucking banter and then come back. Maybe you have some more luck. But the fight me IRL tactic, it's not gonna work. It just shows everybody what a fucking bitch you are because you can't take the banter. So Brian sees this comic. That's why I guess that's where he got the idea. But Andrew just laughs his ass off when he sees his reaction to it. But the more important point is just like how this guy's ego has gotten out of control. He's so convinced he's won all these debates against all these people. It's like when you listen to the way he's categorized them, it's just ridiculous. I've never heard the delusions so perfectly represented by somebody who's so out of touch with reality that they literally think they've won all the fucking debates with people, and they haven't done anything. They've just been made into a complete fool. And now they're basically a lolcow, and like, good luck. By the way, those those people that call in and quote unquote threaten you or whatever, like, those people are called trolls. They're called trolls. They might not even be Republican. Who knows what they might not be anything. They just like watching people like Brian spurg out like a fucking idiot, and that's how they get their laughs. And that's what they're gonna do as long as he keeps spurging out like a fucking lunatic. But let's watch the clip and the reaction of this whole thing. This is so hilarious because it's like when you watch the cartoon and you look at like this is what got under his skin that bad. Like he can pretend like that like, oh, I was laughing at first and then I thought, wow, how pathetic. He wasn't laughing. He probably couldn't even get through the whole clip without breaking his fucking computer. But anyway, that's probably exaggeration. I would think. I don't know if he's that out of control. Although he's kind of getting close. But regardless, this is what it takes. This is all it takes to get Brian upset. And once again, this is pretty. I mean, this is very well done. The guy, like I said, the guy sounds just like Brian. The animation is done exceptionally well. It's a very good animated video. I'm sure there's AI involved, but regardless, it looks fucking great. So, let me see if I got the. Okay. So here's the cartoon, and here's the clip with Brian as co-host. What is this one again? Hold on. Hold on. Let me just make sure I know what this video is, because there's a third video I don't really remember. Let me just check it real quick. Let me just see what's on this other one. I'm sorry. I thought there was only 2 clips, but there's a third one, and it's funny because of he's trying to portray. I mean, there's so much projection here too. It's insane. He's trying to project somebody as being a cultist for Andrew Wilson in Andrew Wilson's cult, and I'm sitting there going, dude, you're in the biggest cult in the country, the Democrat Party. How the fuck are you the one to talk? And his co-host, by the way, is just as delusional. He says some stuff that is just mind-boggling. How much cope it is. I have no idea how they see reality this way. I don't know where their points of evidence are for these. Oh shit. Sorry if that dropped out, guys. I don't know how long that dropped out for. I just got a message there was a dropout, but hopefully that wasn't too long. Let me just check this real quick. I just want to make sure I know what this clip is of. Because one might be before watching the cartoon, one's after, maybe, I think. Oh, that's right. This is so this might be better suited for the next video, or maybe it's a good segue to the next video, because it's a caller, because Brian, who loves to tout, I have a real radio show, he always uses that like it's some super awesome point that like, yeah, Brian, that's great. You know, we don't want to be on the radio because it's got, you know, oversight by corrupt government agencies that you know, want to you know, take people like, you know, anyone that disagrees with you, they want them to not be broadcast, period. So yeah, you enjoy your little radio show there, buddy, and it's not gonna, I don't think the views are going to increase based on it being a radio show, but you know, have fun. Anyway, I don't know who this badass dude is that he brings on in this clip, but God damn, because I think I cut it to where they're both they play the clip, and I cut it, and then they start talking about the clip afterwards, and it doesn't really make as much sense unless you watch it in the middle with them. But I forgot to splice in the anyway. Let me just let's start with this. We'll start with the intro because this fat dude he's with. Once again, listen to the delusion in this guy. He's so fucking stupid. So he's in good company because him and Brian think alike, you know, quite a bit. The retarded minds think alike, I guess.
I guess that's Andrew Wilson, the referee.
You know what the MAGAs would be
Oh, wait,
saying?
no, this is after the video clip. Maybe I didn't save one before the clip, which is actually kind of better because if that is the case, then that means I don't have to worry about that being something that gets in the way. It's just, you know, it's just stupid commentary beforehand. So let's watch the video. This is the cartoon of Brian Shapiro in Punch-Out. Essentially, as Glass Joe, Glass Brian. Let's watch his boxing prowess.
I mean, do you hear what you're saying? You're not tougher than me, okay? You're not smarter than me. I'm sure a lot of people tell you that you're really smart, but you're not smarter than me, okay?
You got what it takes, Brian.
You think so?
You're gonna look good out there. We're gonna look good out there.
I believe that. As a matter of fact, I know that.
I'm looking at you right now and I see a f***ing champion.
Thank you.
But if you lose...
Well, I don't...
Shut up! God forbid you lose.
I mean, he's still going to like PK. I don't know if you guys ever see this meme of I'll give it Byron Gaines. Oh, he's good.
Brian Shepherd.
Come on, you can do it, Brian. Hit the bag. Hit the bag. That big picked up. Oh, boy. He's going for it. I fucking love it. So I'm sorry, I thought that was great. I enjoyed it when I watched it. But now let's check it because listen to this response. This is how ridiculous he reacts to this. Once again, this results in a Fight Me IRL challenge. The most like that bottom tier level of internet debates when you get.
I guess that's Andrew Wilson, the referee.
You know what the MAGAs would be saying?
Yeah, there you go.
If you put out a video like that, they would be.
We would never. This guy's about to tell you about how we would say, "Oh my God, it's a promotion of violence against." We wouldn't. But the other thing is that there's no. You don't. This guy never has to concern himself about it. Mr. Cheeseburger over here never has to worry about that happening ever because the left could never make a cartoon like that. They're not funny. They're just not. They're
Yeah, they're
objectively
not.
not funny people. It's just so great. Just so awesome. Beetlejuice, 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 says this guy.
He
Beetlejuice,
does look like that guy
He
from
says Shapiro
Beetlejuice.
3 times and he
The guy
shows
who's
up.
like,
Going to hell and back, trying to convince everyone that you're promoting violence and that they were afraid of you.
look
And
at
he put out a
Brian shaking his
video
head
of
and
it
laughing.
showing him being violent. That's what you see.
I'm sorry. Who's the ones who tried to kill Trump and talked about him as being Hitler and that he was going to destroy the country? And who's the ones who promoted that the Dobbs decision was going to kill a bunch of women and so the guy drove across the country to kill Brett Kavanaugh? Who's the one whose side influenced the fur fag and his boyfriend that they had to take action against Charlie Kirk and ended up murdering him? You know, who's the side that takes everything as being a threat of violence and then takes it to the next level? That would be your side, fat fuck. Sorry. No, you're wrong. The right would be probably laughing if it was representative at least of reality, like maybe you as like the revolting blob from the Billy Madison wrestling guy that sat on some guy's head and killed him in the show that they talked about. Maybe that, we'd laugh at that. I'd laugh at that, but like I don't know how far, away from reality we have to get before it'd be funny, because nothing in reality would be funny. Nothing actually representing you guys doing what you guys do would be funny at all. But go on, keep the projection coming.
What I'm saying? See the double standard there?
So
Yeah, I
because
do.
they would
It's
definitely
you
play
guys.
victim on it.
so the first time I
What are they talking about?
Yeah. Andrew's
Stupid.
I saw it, I was laughing, and then I was thinking of how pathetic these people are.
Oh, is it pathetic?
Mhm.
People are pathetic
Yeah,
and
of course.
hilarious. They're hilarious too, but also pathetic. Because Mr. Shapiro target of said cartoon, therefore pathetic, but also hilarious, but pathetic though.
Yeah.
Don't forget about that. That's poor guy.
That they have to put together like some sort of cartoon because they're so upset that I embarrass them in these debates. So
It's just so upset that it's just embarrassing. Brian, that's what he's known for. Brian is known far and wide across the internet
I don't know
for
how
embarrassing
he can
people
make
in
these
debate.
claims seriously. I didn't include the Fight Me IRL. He basically sent a challenge out to Andrew. Andrew basically trolled him for a while and didn't confirm anything. And it's like, so he went for his wife and went low and tried to goad him into the fight by insulting his wife, which is exactly what a leftist would do. So it's the same old bullshit tactics. But basically, I'll save the other clip for next time. It's more relevant. Next time I'm going to. I don't want to stay on Brian Shapiro too long, but I had a much longer section planned to go over this stuff because it was just meant as a follow up from last time. Because ever since after the last time I talked about him, he's gone on tears where he's I don't know if I played the clip where a young kid in high school calls into his show and tells him about the teachers there who have a slant against him because he's a conservative. He just dismisses it entirely as completely untrue. There's no way it could be true. It's just like, once again, delusion. But Warren Smith is on there. He's actually on the show with Brian while he's going into this fucking spurg out, and is like, because he just keeps interrupting the kid, just like he does when he's in a debate. He keeps interrupting, doesn't let people speak, wants to label them immediately. This is racist, you're racist, this is racist. Has nothing to offer except for just, ad hominem attack. And Warren points out, you're not even letting him talk, and then he starts spurging out Warren. He's spurging back and forth, and it's like, the dude is so unhinged. Honestly, in a way, I would be a little nervous because the guy does seem, in a way, to. I wouldn't go so far as to say, mass shooter, but like, he seems unhinged enough to be, someone to at least look out for. Like I said, I don't want to say like he'd be dangerous in terms of, committing violence, but like, he definitely doesn't seem like somebody that you should just ignore. Like, there's something about, like, swatting, maybe I could see him justifying in his head how somebody deserves that or something. Like, honestly, I don't know. I don't trust this guy. I don't trust. He's so detached from reality. I just don't trust him. So, as much as I might laugh about him and get really honestly get a good time laughing about it, I see somebody who is so detached from the truth. Like, who the hell can argue in good faith that it's the right that cries out about, oh, you're insinuating violence, you're a what's it called, you're inciting violence against somebody. Like, that's not the right that's doing that. That's the left, and it's the left that's also causing the violence. Like when the freaking guy in New York throws the bomb in the middle of the peaceful pro-Muslim immigrant demonstration in front of the mayor's house, where Allahu Akbar throws the bomb in the middle of the freaking little powwow circle, and then they're so confused. And I'm glad it didn't go off, but like, the dumbasses were about to get their faces blown off. They're lucky it was a dud, but I mean, once again, these people are so stupid. They're on their side. So, once again, makes no sense. But the bigger part of that, we'll have to wait till next time. There's so much more to go over, because I will get to the ICE stuff, because Tom Homan has been on Dr. Phil's podcast again, and now that it's been further on down the timeline past Minnesota, and they've moved on to other areas, there's a really good discussion they had, talking about the progresses they've had, the changes with Mark Wayne Mullen now in place, and by the way, Tom Homan has a very good impression and a very good relationship with Mark Wayne Mullen, with the new DHS secretary. So it looks like things are going to continue pretty smoothly with that. But the anti-ICE sort of demonstrations they're not stopping. I mean, they may have not been as intense as they were at the peak of Minneapolis, but they're still there. They're still violent, and they're still having to get people out of the way by arresting them if necessary to get the illegal people out of the country. But it really is, and then there's also the ride along that I was gonna play that has a really amazing view of somebody, Steven Crowder, going along with some ICE guys on a patrol, and it's really illuminating what happens during the trip. So that hopefully will be on the next episode. I just had so much stuff to talk about, I haven't been able to get into it, but I'll hopefully be on sooner rather than later. Tomorrow's Thursday, so it'd probably be Friday when I get. I'm gonna try like hell for Friday to be the next show. But until then, I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next one. So until then, take care of yourselves. Have a good one, and I'll see you next time. Peace.
In 5, 4, 3. That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. And we will leave you with a. I can't do it. Okay. We'll do it live. Okay. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it, and we'll do it live.